Dennis, in respect of time, I'm going to fly through these a little bit faster. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if there's anything you want to touch on more heavily, just let me know.
Yeah,
So
you got
speak
it.
up. So we already mentioned some things on the barriers of entry. The biggest part is the business plan. And like I mentioned, the expenses are typically at 80% or so or more. We just looked at a deal that was operating at like 105%.
10. Yeah, 110. I think.
110%. So the income is 100%, right? Your revenue, but their operations were costing them 110% a year. So you're losing money on the deal. They're trying to sell it because of that. But that's something we can tremendously trim back. There's a lot of fat the way these big companies operate, and you do have to really pay attention to detail to cut these numbers down. And there's so many times that I go in and we take on a property and we find out they're paying for all these services that never even existed. or even like we just found that we got a second water bill recently at the village, and it's for something that has never been used.
It's for an irrigation system that wasn't never on the property.
And they were paying that on a monthly basis. So, all these things we're trimming the fat down. And there was a security system that was, or they're paying for certain sprinkler systems alarm systems that didn't exist because they're townhomes. It's not an apartment building. These kind of things that we're finding out. So, the financing terms, we mentioned that already. There's better leverage there. And the occupancy is a very huge thing to talk about. I've bought properties like around 80% occupancy, but then we've been running it at like 98% occupancy after that. The current property we bought was already at 98%. And we're going to be operating at that level consistently because we already are developing our wait list out for it. So, that tends to be better cash flow long term. You're not going to have, if you look at these add value deals, you go in, you start raising the rents and you start turning units because you want to actually get the tenants out so you can turn your unit and then charge a lot more. But then your occupancy can drop down to like 60, 70% if you don't do it carefully. And that crushes your cash flow in the first few years. We're not losing that cash flow the whole time. We're gradually going through and just upgrading. We're making the unit upgrades and all those improvements along the way, but we're not doing it to a point where we're pushing out tenants and crushing our occupancy numbers. I'm a limited partner in other deals too, where I'm looking to learn. And some of those operators that we're invested in, you bought the property at like 94% occupancy, but now you're at like 84 occupancy because of what you're doing. And that crushes your cash flow. So we're not getting dividends now. That's not ideal. That's definitely something you want to watch out with when you're investing with certain parties too.